But I also find that personally, in the past when I have suffered stints of exhaustion and burnout, is that I notice it affects other parts of my life. Mm-hmm. So even though I'm sort of going gung-ho at work, 100% full gas, when I'm at home or when I'm at certain social events, I can feel my demeanor change a little bit. I am probably not as social as I should be. My relationships are strained because of that, with my partner, with my family, with my friends. Is that a signal that something doesn't seem right when maybe you get feedback from, and maybe it's something that we should tell people about? If you notice that you're seeing your friends and your coworkers and your family behave in a very unusual way, it probably is a sign that something's happening in their work, or something that they're probably pushing themselves too much. Is that another factor to consider?
Oh yes, definitely. So what you're describing is a common consequence of burnout. So maybe we can talk about the 4 factors of burnout, and then I'll explain how I think they relate to what you were just describing, which is a very, very common situation. So burnout and its risk can be measured by 4 different factors. So one is exhaustion, which is the one that we most associate with burnout, right? And it's actually the one that's more prevalent. So that's the one that's most present within digital workers. Then we have 3 other factors, okay? So exhaustion is one. And we actually have, on average, a good tolerance towards exhaustion. So we can sustain exhaustion levels for a period, as long as we also have engagement levels high, and we can talk about that as well. So exhaustion is one. But then we have something that also comes up a lot, which is self-inefficacy. So the perceived lack of efficacy of a person, right? So this is the one that I always have at the highest levels in my personal case. Why? Because I'm one of the founders, and there's always a lot that you can do, right? So I have this feeling often that I'm just stuck in the mouse wheel, where I'm running a lot, I'm doing a lot of things, but I don't see the needle being moved as much as I wanted to. So what I need to do, and I create tactics on how I deal with this, and I'll share that with you. But what I need to do is be aware that I have these self-inefficacy levels that are high, so that I can take care of them. So exhaustion. Then you have self-inefficacy, which is the second one that's most prevalent within the industry. And then we have 2 others, which are cynicism. And cynicism in this context means when you start creating distance between yourself and your tasks and your goals. It's the usual thing where you say, well, I'm going to do this, but no one cares. No one's going to look at this, right? This project is stupid. When you start seeing that type of thing in yourself or in your colleagues, that's cynicism. That's the actual name that we use for that. And that correlates really, really highly with burnout. And the 4th one is depersonalization, which is something very similar to cynicism, but relating to interpersonal relationships. And so this is when you start seeing people around you within the workplace, seeing people around you as a drain on your energy and not an energy source. So when you start feeling like, oh my God, I have to talk to this client, or I need to talk to this provider, or this guy isn't paying us, or this guy is trying to, when you feel that towards folks outside of the company or within the company, and you start feeling like, no, this PM doesn't get it, this designer doesn't get it, I'm the only one that's pushing for this, or our team is the only one that's pushing for this, and the rest of them are. When you start seeing that, that's depersonalization. So depersonalization and cynicism are the ones that correlate the highest with actual burnout. So when these 2 spike, you're probably closer to suffering from burnout. Again, we're not saying that if you have it, you're automatically under burnout, but it's a red flag. And usually these 4 factors, exhaustion, self-inefficacy, cynicism, and depersonalization, translate into some observable consequences, such as when you start feeling socially ill-equipped. So when you start feeling like you don't want to be with other people around you, when you start replying to people in a way that's not the usual way that you reply to people, when you start being a little bit harsher, colder towards people. It happens when you start having sleep issues. You start losing your energy levels, and you start feeling, and this can also, if we're talking about specifics, when you wake up in the morning, are you jumping out of bed to go to work, or are you just regretting that it's still Tuesday and there's so long until it's Saturday, right? So if that's the case, you're probably starting to suffer from, if not burnout, at least you're losing your work engagement. And burnout and work engagement have an interesting relationship that we can talk about as well.